I'm Pookah. Welcome to Spark of Creativity Canvas. We're going to be looking at how to use Canvas to up your image generation game. Canvas is used for those tasks which traditionally would require you to switch to Photoshop. So, if you've got an image and you love it, but it's not quite right. So like in this image, maybe this is really cool. You like the ice there on the walls, but you actually meant for it to be at night. So that would be an example of something where you would potentially erase or mask an area here in the center and add some details. Actually, this was based on a prompt that a friend created where his goal is to take this image and sort of widen the path there in the center. So I was playing with a prompt that he had. So that would be an example, something that you would do just to modify it. So give a canvas, you can select any image that you want. So you could select an image here and then say edit in Canvas. Okay. But the other thing that you can do is you can also just click here when you're at the home, just click AI Canvas. So, okay. And takes me back here to this cool image. So going to do a rundown just quickly. Last time, I sort of went over things a little bit more in depth, some of the features. Today, what we're going to be doing is looking at specific images that people are hoping to have changes made to. First of all, I always want to mention this. This was like one of the first bits of advice I was given about Canvas is turn on Snap to save your sanity. Because without Snap, when you move things around on the screen, there is no snapping. It just goes wherever, which can sometimes be good. You might end up wanting to turn that off for particular reasons that we'll get to later. But most of the time, you actually pretty much want things to line up. And what can happen is if you're moving this, and say you have this here, this is our generation frame. If you're moving the generation frame and you have it just a little bit off, you can wind up, when you download that image, you'll find out that there's a little bit extra up here. Or you can also find that when you're trying to place things, like the layers get sort of lost. So Snap is just really helpful. And I tend to set it at 32. Each one of these dots in this grid is 64 units apart. And so I tend to set it at 32. Over here, we've got our pan hotkey. We've got our select. So select is just what you use to drag things around the screen. We've got our mask. Masking you mask areas of the image that you want to change, but that you want it to sort of make smaller changes to. Whereas erasing is sort of like you want to completely get rid of whatever was in that area. But now an interesting thing about that is that when you erase, it's actually going to try to fill things in based on the edges. And there's things you can do, like you can mask. I'm going to send an image to the chat in just a second about this. But when we're working here, the AI is always trying to solve the image. It's always trying to figure out how to make the different pieces of it fit together. And when you mask, you're basically saying it's allowed to change that area if it needs to, but it doesn't have to. Whereas when it's erased, it has to fill that in. But so what can happen is if there's like a blank space and it doesn't even know, so we can even try, we'll see what it does even without a prompt. So look, so for some reason, whatever this is, but as you see, even though I erased all of that, it's actually filled back in without any prompt. It's actually filled back in a lot of the same features of that ice because, and see, there we go. Actually, that's kind of cool. I should see if he wants to keep that copy. But this, so you'll see, even though we erased there, what it wanted to do, and I'll take this, I'll show you, this is actually a layer here. It looks at it and it's like we've left all of these open edges and it needs to complete it. And so, and sometimes there's elements that you might not expect, like you think, okay, I've totally erased that object, I should be good. But there's actually small amounts of shading. Like look, for instance, here you see small amounts of this yellowish shading added into the rock. Earlier when I was playing with this, I was finding that if I didn't erase or mask enough, it was adding more yellow up here. because it's drawing from that. And even though our eyes don't sort of perceive the difference between individual pixels, sometimes maybe you haven't actually erased everything that you need to. So that's something to look at. But that's why it goes and it says, and here we can see why Snap is so helpful. But that's why sometimes, no, move. Well, Snap can be helpful unless you lose track of your, yeah, there we go. So you can see how it basically, it's extrapolating from what it sees. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to kind of guide it in terms of what do we want added, what do we want left out, and the masking and erasing together do a lot to help with that. Now there's another that's really cool in Canvas 2.0, which is a sketch, which will let you add color and sort of hint what you want. And so I could say, no, I just want this to be this whole big wall of white. But now the issue with that is that the sketch does not work the same way as the image itself. The image, so when you add a sketch, you can generate. And again, we're just doing this without a prompt because it's kind of fun to see what it does. But it will influence it, but the sketch does not persist past the point when you're generating. So it just said, okay, I have no idea how to describe what that is. Oh, it's added like buildings or something. That is really weird. Okay. So the point being, it influences it, but it doesn't treat it the same as it does with pixels, because the sketch, what it really is it's basically kind of like a vector image as a mask. It's basically a mask that hints at color, at least as we're using it in Inpaint and Outpaint. So I've sent it. I'm going to go over in a second, but first I'm just going to, as was suggested, I'm just going to go over the different features. The different modes in Canvas. We've got the Inpaint, Paint, Outpaint. Now, this is what the original Canvas, if people have used Canvas 1.0, this was what you were doing with that. They have added more ability to play with it, such as being able to use any model and being able to sort of tune the settings of the strength of the Inpaint versus Outpaint to say like, which is basically how creative you want it to be. But so if you remember Canvas 1.0, that's pretty much what we're looking at here. Text to image, this is basically, it's mostly here as a convenience. It is the same features as what you're doing when you're generating an image outside of this space. You know, you have all this photoreal, prompt magic, alchemy, all these settings. Basically what happens is when you used text to image, you put in a prompt just like normal, put in a negative prompt just like normal, which I have to add. So text to image is basically the same kind of thing as when you're outside of Canvas. So when you're just using the normal image generation tool, it's kind of here mostly as a convenience so that you're not having to constantly move back and forth out of Canvas if you want to just create a whole new thing and you have a whole new prompt and everything. So the settings that you're going to be seeing when you're in that mode are pretty similar to what you have when you're just outside of Canvas. So you can do photoreal, prompt magic, alchemy, all of that. So Inpaint, Outpaint, that's basically the mode that is what we had before when it was Canvas 1.0, if people have used that. Inpaint and Outpaint, it basically lets you fill in portions of the image that are blank, or to use masking to say, basically, I just want to change small things. So it's closest to the older Canvas, but there are new features. One of the things with Inpaint, you can now change your Inpaint strength, which is cool. Outpaint is basically around Inpaint strength 0.9. The strength is basically kind of about how creative it can be. So it's like how much do you want to stay true to what the image is, the underlying image. And that's especially relevant for masking, because you might mask an area, and if you say, oh, just keep the Inpaint strength very low, it's going to make very few changes to it. But if you set it up high and then you put something very different here in your prompt, then you've basically given it permission to make more major changes to that. And that's more, yeah, you can change color, and sometimes it's sufficient to put in, to just put into the prompt box what is you want. But this is also an area where the sketching can be helpful, because you can take a color here in the sketch, and you can use an eyedropper to pick up a color that you want, but you can also use this here, just your color chooser, and you can also change the opacity. And what's cool with that is that, say for some reason I really wanted to turn some of this yellow, could set it about halfway, and then I would go over this, and you see you can actually still see those other pixels beneath it. And so that gives it kind of a guide that is like, yes, I still want there to be ice, but change it to a yellowish tone, or you can set it down very, very low. And when you do that, it's basically masking it, but saying, but I want a different color. And then if you have the Inpaint strength up very high, sometimes it can be hard to predict what it will do with something like this. But if you set it down very low, it'll kind of try to honor, what was happening underneath where you've basically masked with color. So I have no idea what this will actually do, because one of the things normally I would actually clean up the sketch here, which you can do. You can say to just erase images, sketches, or mask. And so I might sort of, remove some of this. And you'll see that it doesn't remove image over there. And so let's try. Normally when you're doing this, you actually want to put like a longer prompt. Hang on a second. Just so I have at least something there. Normally you would want to describe your entire image, but sometimes you can just see what happens if I just go, let's see. And honestly, I have no idea what it'll do with that. It should try to look at what was going on underneath it and observe. Nope, it did not. It did not change the color at all. But it is still pretty interesting to see that it is continuing to fill in that void. And this is one of the things I'm gonna try to show what we do. Yeah, this is gonna be something I'm gonna try to show how we can sort of accomplish this and get it to stop filling in weird things, even if we ask it to. So one of the things that I've found personally that works really well is taking actual pixels, basically. So this image here, say I really want to add a little bit more, I want to extend the image upward and get this will seem strange at first, but say I really want to extend that wall upward, and I want it to know to fill this area in with this kind of rock face. By putting actual pixels up here above, it tells the AI, when you're solving this, you need to figure out a way to make these pixels and those pixels line up, and it will be more likely to give you something more of that same style and color there in the middle than just if you I know, right? No idea what could happen. I'm like, I mean, to me, it's just icicles, but what happens? So, okay, this is interesting. It seems to have created like a surface and then some more rock. So it's treating it like that's the top of that rock face there. Oh, there we go. See, this is what I'm talking about. So it's tried to connect those pieces together. And so by kind of giving it, instead of just giving it some color, it actually, yeah. So it actually is saying, go over here. So this is something that I used to do it more with Canvas 1.0, because there weren't all of these other really cool options, which I'm still getting to. But I still do use this, because sometimes when you're just getting so stuck and it's like it's not understanding, if you take a little piece of something that you want it to try to reach to. Yeah, magic on 3 and 4 iterations. I know, right? It's like you have to have 4 iterations just in case. If you take a little piece of what you want it to reach to, it has to incorporate it somehow. And sometimes what it'll do, if it really can't figure it out, is it'll create a little bubble around what you're adding in. But usually it will be pretty good at, at least coming up. So what we saw there, I guess I accepted it. But yeah, what we saw, it tried different methods of making what you gave it work. But usually if you do that, you'll find that you can get something that that matches up. So, okay, so I should get back to just quickly explaining the other things. Image to image. This is pretty similar to image to image as we had it outside. Where it's different within Canvas is it doesn't look at the mask, but it does look at the sketches. So you can draw on absolutely not working icicles. But it will try to fill that in now. So it's basically, it's the same as image to image outside, but with the ability to add in color through the sketches and to choose where your generation frame is. So because it only works within that frame. And so let's again see what we get. Oh, see, look, we've got our yellow here. So you can see that it's and just like outside, it's not absolutely following the depending on the input strength, sorry, it's doing different things. But you can see how in that one spot where we said the yellow icicles, it said, oh, okay. So one thing I can do is I can accept this, but then I can drag this outside, erase the parts that I don't want, and then I can put it back and get it to unless I have it set to only erase sketches, in which case it will not do anything. Okay. So I can erase the parts that I don't want. And then I can drag it back in, place it around where it was, and then I can mask around that. The masking basically says you can change this if you need to. So by masking it, I'm giving the AI permission to find a way to blend this. But you'll notice I'm not masking that area in the center because I don't want it to change that little area of the yellow. I left it on image to image. I meant to show, because as I said, the mask does not do anything. This is a thing that I do altogether too often because there are these different modes. I can be like in a groove doing something, switch out briefly, and then forget that I switched out. So I do have the Inpaint strength set down low, and so it's going to do only minimal blending. I think this one's good. The tokens burn. I know. Okay. So we see now we've got this color change that's happened. And so by using the different modes together, you can sometimes accomplish something that was a little bit harder to do. So doing image to image can sometimes be super helpful for creating those pixels that you want to put back in and blend in with something. And now the other tool that you can use to do that directly is sketch to image. And this is one of the other new features. With sketch to image, it is different in that normally what happens is what you describe generally in your prompt, you're going to be talking about everything that's in the generation frame, and it's going to be trying to work with that. But with sketch to image, it only bases it on what you've sketched. And so you want to describe only what it is that you've got there. So I'm going to say like with a tree, a freakishly green tree. It doesn't have to be very good. That's one of the great features of this. Okay, so in this case, if I said craggy rock face with luminescent icicles, it would go, I have no idea what to do with that with green. So if I say a pine tree, it will hopefully figure out that really ridiculous triangular shape. Okay, well, it did add a pine tree. There you go. There is no tree there. So what it does, and this is interesting, and you can change these settings, is basically it creates a kind of a mask pine shrub. I know, right? I guess I'll go with that one because it's got that yellow, the yellow gleam. Yep, but so what it does is it basically takes that little sketched area and it treats that as what it can work with, looks at the color that you're providing, and then it creates a mask. And what we see over here, override defaults, it actually looks at the surroundings of what you're drawing. So it's able to change it a little bit, and then mask radius as well. So yes, yeah, so with this tree, so what it did was go back. Yeah. So you see, obviously it didn't feel like it needed to absolutely 100% honor that shape, but it did look and say, okay, something in that space. And you'll notice it did make, like, it is able to make changes outside. So I think one of the things you'll see, it's hard to sort of notice. I'll try to zoom in. Okay. Is that, it's the silliest little thing, but like right here, it's kind of like a little snow-covered rock. You'll notice it changed it. So it didn't just add the tree. It's basically given the AI permission to modify an area around it, and you'll see mask radius 20 pixels. So that's, in this case, that's what we're looking at. It was able to 20 pixels around this tree shape. It's able to look at what else is around it and modify it to make it blend together so that it can then add in a tree. So there's our basic rundown of the different features, the different modes rather, that we have. So now one thing that's cool is you can upload an image directly here. I didn't mention this before. You can, directly from your computer, you can actually see your own previous generations. You can also do things from the community feed. In terms of the different layers, there's a couple things that happen. First of all, anytime you hit generate, you're creating things within this frame. And those images, you have to pick one in this interface. So, okay, let's see. Oh, yes, so we were going to grab the image that we're going to use. So this was the image that was originally being used. And oh yeah, something that's good is you can lock this. You can lock the generation frame, so then when you drag, it doesn't move it around. So now the request that was made for this one, there was multiple things, but was to split it up, to widen it, which will be interesting. Possibly add some stalagmites, which could be cool. Add a castle in the back and add a starry sky. So I thought that could be fun to try these out. So first thing, in terms of splitting it up, I'm actually going to drag two versions onto, I'm going to go grab the prompt, just a sec. A chilly snow-covered path in the bottom of an icy ravine. The walls are steep with glowing ice. In the far distance, the path heads towards a blurry fork in the road. Get this out. This mode. So the first thing is, so we want it to be a little bit wider. We basically actually want to blend the left side and the right side, but with more space in the middle. So what I do in this case is actually erase. Take the two halves, erase. Honestly, don't know how well it will fill that in, but we shall see. Oh, it's interesting. It just sort of forked the path. That's not too bad, to be honest. Okay. Can work with this. Okay. Continue erasing what we don't want. If it has even the smallest hint of that rock in the middle, it's going to put it right back, unless I mask. I can also do that, but I'm kind of liking doing it this way. If this next generation doesn't work, I'm going to mask a bit down the middle there. I know 2 was really nice, but this is, we're supposed to be adding some stalactites as well in the middle. So, no, that's not a stalactite. That's not what I asked for. Okay, hang on. Because it sees something here. And a couple of things. I can also set the Inpaint strength up higher. Try that. Otherwise, I will mask along here. That's a good question. Somebody asked, "Oh, would you describe different things to fill in the erase or the same prompt?" It generally speaking, it's good to describe everything that's within the generation frame. However, because of the way that it is working, it's not just creating from scratch, it's using what you already have there. And so it sort of knows everything that's in the frame. And so it doesn't have to be spot on, because its main goal is actually just to solve what's in the frame, which is why you can just leave it blank and it will try to put something that's in there. Sometimes if you're finding that you're trying to add something and it's just not going, adding that thing to the front of the prompt so it's at the highest weight can sometimes be a way to get it to do something that wasn't otherwise happening. But generally speaking, except when you're in sketch to image, it's good to describe everything that's in this frame. Let's see. So I'm going to show as well, though, like what happens when we do the masking, because the masking will give it a little bit more freedom from what it sees here. I like to work iteratively. The method that I follow is I choose the generation, not the perfect one, and not even necessarily the best one, but the one that solves whatever the element is that I'm wanting to do, that is most difficult, or basically whatever is the biggest help. And then I plan that I'll just fix the next stage as well. So because when you're trying to do a large area and you're trying to like fix multiple things, you can wind up with a variety of different options. So it really wants to add, I think this is good. This is good here. That is a really weird tree. So yes, so the request was some cracks in the ground, stalagmites, a castle up here, and there's a particular image of a castle that he wants brought in here, and possibly a starry sky. Now, when we're adding in something that's new, one thing I could do, we could try drawing stalagmites with sketched image. Wonder if they're gonna, because I think what he's describing is like the ground is opening up in an earthquake, so I don't think that there's gonna be supposed to be snow on the stalagmites. That would be if the ground is opening up. So let's try drawing some really crummy stalagmites. Another thing that can sometimes help is to set the generation of the area that you're working in to be smaller. So now, since we're in sketch to image, we are going to just describe what they are. It's stalagmites, right? Stalactites, stalagmites, yeah. Yay! Okay. That's good. Next thing we have to do is the earth is supposed to be cracking. So let's try even darker. But in this case, it's kind of hard to describe cracks in the ground in a way that sketch to image would do. I could try it, but I might try something else. I might try... This looks like, because I'm doing black, it looks like I'm erasing, but I'm not. This is sketch. So I turn it to black. Try image to image with the input strength lower. See if it creates some good cracks that then we can put over it. Oh, isn't good. But those might be workable, but
they're fun.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Earthquake. Possibly Mordor. Also, I lost the period. It's not about really drawing it. It's about giving the AI hints about what it should be doing. Let's just try, instead of the snow bit, any of it, I'll say, the earth. I don't know. I'm like, it's not what he asked for, but trying to picture how I would put that into it. Oh, well, so because I'm on image to image, it's being more vague in terms of the directions. But if I put the input strength up more, then it will come up with something more, but it will also be more true to my ugly drawings. So there we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Which one? Do we think one or two? I think one is good, maybe. Yeah, one has better cracks up ahead, right?
One.
Yeah, one. Okay. So now
we have confirmation
one. By the way, this is what I was mentioning before. When you things that are outside the frame, it leaves them behind if you want them. So now we still want to have the other edges of the ravine. So we're going to take this, going to erase the areas where we were content with what was there on the sides. This is where snap being there is really helpful. And now take the frame back. And now there's going to be these little areas here where it needs a little bit of blending. And so that's where we will switch back to Inpaint, Outpaint. We will turn down strength and we will just sort of mask. One thing you can actually do that's helpful, because it can be hard to see where you need to work here. One thing that can be helpful, because you can actually drag the masks as well, is you can take it down here. You can draw on most of your mask. See, this is the amazing thing about Canvas, is you can just be using a crappy trackpad and it is still able to create really, really cool things for you. And now we want to just erase a little bit of that mask because I got a little bit onto the stalagmite. And then, okay. So what I'll do is I will just move this on its own. And then I will move these to line up with it. Ta-da! I know, right? It's because I mean, it's great because I mean, you're still being creative and you're involved in it, but you know, and you have to do things like you have to say, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want to create. But as long as you're able to work with the AI, you can do some pretty amazing things. Like you can create whatever it is you're thinking of. And you think, ooh, this one's good because it's got more of that like night thing going on. Yeah, I think this one. Now at this point, I'm gonna move these out of the way just because they're kind of interfering with the look of it. I think also it's good sometimes too when you're at a stage where you're happy with things to download, and it will download everything that's on the canvas instead of just what's in the frame. So that's why I deleted those other bits. So let's see. So we were requested. He did say a fork. It's kind of got a fork in the road, but maybe so. The other thing that we were requested. Yeah, so that's really big. But so he wants this image in the background in the distance, or that castle in the background in the distance. So we can shrink it down. First of all, since he only wants the castle, I'm going to erase around the outside. Yeah, Young VD is pointing out that additional functionality is being developed for, I mean, they're adding all kinds of additional functionality. It's pretty amazing. I'm like, when I say, oh, well, this is on my wish list, it's just like, I know that there's a lot of stuff in the works. I don't know the specifics, but I have a feeling I will be happy with what they come up with. And I think it was meant to be along one of the paths, as I understood it. Meant to be like up there somewhere. So we have that. Now we want to kind of clear a space here. I'm going to mask a larger area to see. And even if it's not perfect, what we do is we just we drag it out, take the parts we want, we put it back. We'll see what this does. Last time we had a stream, we added a thing, which was in the chat. Everyone create the most adorable Killbot image that you can come up with. It's very important. It has to be clear that they're a robot and that it is a Killbot, but I think that this part needs to go away, but I think other than that, that's pretty... Okay, Danny just sent an adorable sea of bunnies. They look very sweet. If we didn't know that they were Killbots, we would be totally happy, but they are going to be our doom. Now here's where I would probably erase. Combination of erase and color. I add some dark color here. Take some of the... It's often good to take some of the color from the other parts of the image. It's really hard to see, but I'm totally drawing something there. That's adorable. Everything that we do in the AI, just like when you're generating an image, there's things which are, quote, better, but sometimes breaking the rules comes up with really cool results. So one thing that you can do, I sort of covered this last time, you can turn on a fixed seed and sort of lock the randomness of the generation and then test out different results. So that's one thing you can sort of see. How does it work when I do hill? How does it work when I don't? But the other thing is, yeah, so it's going to depend just a little bit on just like whatever randomness was given to you. And so test it out. If something's not working, try locking the seed, try leaving the seed off, try changing settings, try, like all different things, because sometimes what doesn't work in one scenario is like the perfect thing in another. It's like there's not really an absolute law. Let's see, this is me trying to tell it, no, we want there to be more snow there. Yeah, that's good. And then I'll just mask into there. Just so that it understands that there's not meant to be a castle like right there. Can you weight words with quotes or brackets? I would come up with a fixed seed to put in there, and I would test the results with or without the bracket, because different people have different answers to that question. Yeah, order of words from left to right is weighting as well. Those are adorable reindeer robots. In image to image and text to image, there is also alchemy support, and that should support weighting. And so that's why I'm like, I would just test it. That's adorable. Bunny Killbot. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Angel said, mostly just a rabbit. As long as you do not touch their carrot stash, they won't kill. So now I grabbed some of the color near there, and this will kind of hint, hey, keep continuing the thing that was there, instead of trying to add weird stuff. Oh my god, Bambi Killbot. Actually, I can get rid of all of these things because we're not using them anymore. All these layers, they are not helpful. Goodbye. No, wrong one. like the problem is when this layer, even though it's been erased to very small, it's actually that whole size. It still sees it as like an image of that size, just plus the plus like transparency around it. And so you can accidentally select it when you don't think you're selecting. Okay, so I'm going to do more of the same. I'm going to erase in here again. So sometimes doing the sketching is absolutely the best thing. And sometimes putting in the pixels just works best because it just says, no, you have to fill this in. Because the pixels persist, whereas the mask, it's sort of, the sketch is really just masking with color. Oh my God, Saigan's teacup. And also I love the penguin. But yes, this flower robot teacup Killbot. Best thing ever. Oh my God, Furbies. Whoa, that's a really good, like that really looks like a Furby. Ah, there we go. That wasn't so bad, was it? And now sometimes when you want to just get rid of something, I want to see if we can get rid of this down over here. Sometimes just leaving space is enough. I just masked over the thing that I wanted to remove and then left a space. And it's just like, okay, we want to kind of make the edges of this all come together. And as long as you've adequately covered the entire thing that you want to remove, it will often just remove it. So I'm going to go with that one. That teacup actually kind of scares me a little bit. It's like it has haunted eyes. I'm just curious if we can get the Starry Sky going on in here. That might be too much for the length of this session that we've got. Oh my God, cursed teacup. Why? That's horrifying. Wonder if I can do it with sketch to image. I'm gonna try it. No harm in trying. This Starry Sky. I mean, I didn't ask for a shooting star, but it's kind of nice. We'll give him that. And then maybe draw a little bit more. And this is something where, again, we could, I would probably spend some time trying to get the Starry Sky just right. And it's an area where I would probably I might do like a sketch on the outside and then try to merge it back in. Not quite what I was going for. Starry Sky. Maybe I should merge it over to... Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. You've got like smoky particles of, yeah, I love it. Yeah, that would be something to do. So, is to create the sky and add the castle after. But one of the things is though, while that's true, you don't have to, which is one of the, did I just erase the, oh, pity's sake. I wasn't paying attention and I just went and erased the thing. So, I have that now. You can also increasing the render density. What it's actually doing is it's giving you a sort of like a higher resolution per pixel. I mean in that same space, but it also shrinks the frame. So it's something that you can sometimes do if you're wanting to. When I first put it in the castle, I was thinking of it like it looks really nice. Yeah, I was thinking of it more like that it is at nighttime, but then like up against the rest of this, it was looking too bright. So that's kind of why I didn't do the sky first. But that's okay because it gives us an opportunity to solve. Try it. It's got like the hill sort of happening there behind it. Do we have any other changes we want to make? What do you think? Add a snowman? A tiny little snowman. I honestly don't think it matters to have them be like this, but I'm doing it anyway because it's fun. And then this is probably going to be our last thing because I think that I was already close to the end. Oh yeah, we're on sketch to image. A snowman. Thank you. Thank you for balancing out the horror. That's really beautiful. I want that cake. No snowman appeared. That's okay. This is just good. We're good. Do I have any thoughts or tips in the last minute? I would say, first of all, I'm going to go back over the chat and look at questions that I missed that I can try to cover for the next time. But also, I would just say, like, just try different things. And when you get a generation, even if it's not everything, look for the details that matter. Or like if there's a particular thing that was like really hard, it's like, oh, it was so hard to get it to understand that I wanted the earth to be cracking open. And look, I got a little bit of that. I would go with that. And even if you can just get like down here, like a small little crack, you can build on it. You can, so take the things, look for the elements of the generation that are hardest or most significant, and then just expect to do things iteratively. Expect that you're going to be, making small changes and then more small changes until you finally get what you're going for. Don't try to solve it all at once. Download the artwork. There we go. I think that came out well. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you, Danny, for ending with another horror teacup. That's how we're done. That's it. Bye.